All right, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everybody. Today is Wednesday, March the 30th, 2022, and we have quite a bit to cover today with respects to not particularly stories going crazy all over the place, but more so as it pertains to the intricacy of those stories. So let's jump right into it. So first and foremost, as usual, we'll be covering news from all over the world, by the way. The FDA has authorized emergency use of a quote-unquote second booster, i.e., fourth injection of Pfizer and Moderna's mRNA vaccine for people 50 years of age and over. Again, I'm going to leave that there. I think there's been more than enough of that covered on this show, and I don't mean that for those that are, that have just come to the show. I very politely encourage you to check out the previous Krakens. When it comes to COVID, I'm not trying to use this as a cop-out, but I truly do mean it when I say we will do our best at least to present both sides here, but at the same time, please, and I mean this genuinely, decide for yourselves. I say this because, again, I don't know your health personally. In my opinion, it should not be fair of me to start, using emotionally provocative terms to make you believe one thing or the other. I truly mean that. Please decide for yourself. The next thing is that the United States will surpass 1 million encounters of non-citizens attempting to enter the country by way of the southern border in the next couple of days for the first 6 months of the fiscal year 2022, according to U.S. Border Patrol Chief Raul Ortiz. Again, I don't know what to say to this, to be honest with you folks, and I'm not saying this with respect, like in a negative connotation nor in a positive connotation, to be honest. I mean, people illegally enter countries all the time, not saying that's okay, but I mean, with respects to the way that the system is set up from a human angle, there's always going to be that type of corruption, if you will, not saying that this is the case, but there's always going to be some type of, if you will, half-ass bootleg, loophole within any set of rules, so to speak. So, I mean, I wish I could elaborate more, guys, to be honest, but I truly don't know what could be said in this regard as it pertains to this. I mean, U.S. will surpass 1 million encounters of non-citizen. I don't know. The only thing I can think of is what Biden had said on Monday when he said to the other please forgive me, I think it was to another world leader. He's like, we have these issues as well with migrants. I think one of the politicians in Ukraine, if I'm not mistaken, or Belarus, something like this. Point being, I mean, influxes of people will move wherever they can or wherever they have to in order to survive. I don't blame the people that are the non-citizens, truly. I mean, that's just a label we're giving, I would like to think, honest human beings, or, vast majority of honest human beings just trying to find somewhere to sort of rest and settle, so to speak. Now, with that being said, though, I do also have a personal belief with respects to a set of rules must be followed, because I like to use that phrase from John Wick. If the rules are not followed, then what is the difference between us and the animals? Now, I say that carefully because I'm not trying to talk about, again, let's all follow the rules of the government. I'm saying that in a contextual manner. But anyways, the next thing is that there was a large explosion in Belgorod, excuse me if I butchered that, Russia, near the Ukrainian border. A shell exploded on the territory of a military camp in the Belgorod region, wounding 4 servicemen, the Russian news agency TASS says. That could be legit. It could be a false flag. I truly don't know. I am currently at the moment trying to keep my finger on the pulse. But again, just like the situation in Israel last year, which was unfortunate as well, but to be fair, this seems way more clustery, if you will. Unless I'm on the ground, I don't want to say for certain. There is something that I did want to say, however, pertaining to the alleged propaganda angle of it. And I say, alleged because of YouTube, which brings me actually to something I want to bring up before we move on with the other points, which is that I want to read this for you folks, because I put this on my Telegram for the members to just sort of make a point, which was that the headline read, Abramovich and Ukraine negotiators reportedly suffered from suspected poisoning as skin allegedly, quote, peeled from faces, end quote, after peace talks with Russia. Abramovich lost his sight for several hours and was treated in Turkey, Bellingcat claimed. Now, this is according to thesun.co.uk. Now, I put on the Telegram, as those watching on YouTube could probably see in the bottom left here. All right, so you guys see this report above. I encourage you all to be very wary of believing the details immediately. Why? Because Bellingcat, the quote-unquote news organization that originally reported this, is a an alleged, I gotta say this for YouTube, an alleged CIA cover or front company. So I'm not saying that that is not true at all, that there was no such thing as the poisoning. What I'm saying is we must be vigilant of the lies sandwiched into the truths, or the truth sandwiched into the lies. Now the question then becomes, how do we decipher that? Again, that's partly why I started the show, to tell you the truth, folks, if I'm being honest. So again, I wish I could give more of a detailed answer, if you will. The next thing is that, sorry, let's scroll back up here. The next thing is that Germany triggers the first stage of the gas emergency plan to secure supplies. Vice Chancellor Habeck appeals to consumers. He says, save energy. Again, speaking of which, the Kremlin says the switch of payments for Russian gas to rubles will not take effect on Thursday, which is tomorrow as of the day I'm recording this. It will, quote, take more time, end quote, according to Bild, B-I-L-D, which is, I believe, a quite popular German news outlet there. I don't know which way Bild tends to lean in a general direction. Allegedly, Bild is pretty neutral, but I say that carefully because it's possible that may have changed based on the recent, I think, transaction of Bild, assuming I'm not mixing that up with another news agency. But anyways, speaking of which as well, inflation in Germany has jumped to 7.3% in March, the highest level since 1981. I in my humble opinion, this is quite deliberate. I mean, the Kremlin also said, I think as we reported Monday too, that they're willing to accept Bitcoin because they basically said, hey, payment is payment. Now, to me, that speaks a signal of the Russian the apparatus within the Kremlin not wanting to go along with the New World Order, or not wanting to go along with the New World Order entirely. I don't know where I stand on that yet, because them sort of saying, hey, we'll take Bitcoin, seems to be a very rapid but deliberate strategy to sort of stick the thumb in the eye of the other world powers, if you will. So it's hard to say, because again, we also have to consider, I think Whitney Webb has done a fantastic job of explaining that Putin is also in tight with a particular please forgive me if this is incorrect, a particular rabbi, I'm not sure, something of the sort, a particular Jewish religion, or he's very close with a Jewish leader of a particular branch of Jewish religion. I say this carefully because I don't have the facts in front of me, and I want to be very hesitant and not put words in Miss Webb's mouth. She does fantastic work. I have nothing but respect for her. I did see in her Telegram group chat, however, she brought something up about Putin being associated with something of the sort. And again, not to be racist to any extent, I'm not speaking of the Jewish people. I'm speaking of the, I guess you could say the Mossad, the Zionists, the alleged Ashkenazi, if you will. I'm speaking mainly with respects to the associations that conform to larger ideologies, which then seem to form direct policy. That's the sort of path I follow. Now, I would follow the same path if Putin was very close with a Catholic bishop, for example. So just to be fair and consistent, I want to bring that up. The next thing is that, and well, speaking of which, as it pertains to Germany, I mean, it's almost as if there's been a speed up of some type of global reset. Truth be told, I'm not trying to use the same words that everybody else uses, whether the media or the elites, but this is truly what it seems like to me, guys. If I'm being honest, I don't know what else I could say. The next thing is that the Ukraine war will have global food impact, quote, beyond anything we've seen since World War II, end quote, says the United Nations food chief. Again, this screams planned reset to me. This is just my opinion. Please decide for yourselves, but this screams planned reset to me. Speaking of which, Biden is planning to get his second Pfizer booster injection today. I think as of the day I'm recording this, or maybe it was yesterday, at the earliest. Again, this to me speaks to a larger perspective, if you will, of trying to bring everything together in a way or manner that says, the beep boops are good. Don't worry, we all must stress about food hunger. We must stress about world pollution, all of this. And I'll be honest with you, I know there are things that we do that damage the planet. I know there are things that we do that make people starve all around the world. The problem is, I don't believe the ones at the top when they say, we have the solutions, because there's never really been an actual practical solution implemented. Again, you want to know how you can solve these problems? Free energy. And they have the tech, in my humble opinion, but they won't do it. So, again, until I see that happen in my humble perspective, my opinion can always change. As I'm very open-minded, I do my best to be. But at the same time, until the free energy tech comes out to a large extent, or even a small extent, I'm going to continue to say to myself, they're deliberately creating the problem and then coming in with the quote unquote solution. And again, maybe I'm wrong, guys. Please, if you think, Dave, you're taking it too far with your thoughts in that regard, let me know. I'd love to discuss it in a good faith manner. But yeah, the next thing is that the Ukraine, let me see. The Washington Post review finds additional documents showing the Biden family interactions with Chinese executives, some of whom are linked to a major Chinese oil and gas company that has ties to the CCP and the PLA. For those who are not familiar, if I'm not mistaken, the PLA stands for the People's Liberation Army. This is according to the Washington Post. Now, again, interesting that the Washington Post, they seem to be following the strategy that I've said quite avidly in the past, which is if you bring yourself down before everybody else does, you control the way that it happens, which is that enough non-quote-unquote mainstream media outlets, which again define that term for me, to be honest, enough non-mainstream media outlets seem to push the laptop narrative in a good way, if I'm being honest with you. And I would say this the opposite if this was, say, Don Jr.'s laptop, because the evidence is the evidence. Unless the evidence has been falsified, that's a different story. But again, interesting how they come out with this article today, the Washington Post, almost as if to sort of get ahead of the curve to say, well, we reported on it, yada, yada. But I find it quite, to be honest with you, surprising the Washington Post, who has a $200 or $300 million contract with the CIA, put this up. But again, sometimes you have to be able to sort of, take a hit to make it seem like you're not a full-on puppet, I guess. But, these are the thoughts I kind of consider in my mind every so often. Legitimate things do seem to slip through, or maybe not slip through, they're allowed through, rather, with respects to dissemination of true information to the public. Now, we also have to be vigilant of what I'm saying. Please be vigilant of my comments as a reporter to you folks. I say this with the utmost respect and honesty, because you cannot sit here and say, yeah, Dave is right, and not do your own research. Please, please, please. I truly appreciate that you folks take my word and trust me, but if you have the time, do your own research on the Hunter Biden laptop. I really mean that, because I'm really not trying to push a perspective. I give my opinion, but anyways. This also, to me, by the way, from an intelligence perspective, speaks to the larger angle of how families that get involved in politics. When I say families, I mean not like mob families. I mean literal families, like blood families, if you will, which arguably could in some cases be mob families because they tend to stay blood related, could be, I guess, I don't want to use the word compromised because I don't want to make it seem like I'm trying to push a particular view, but intelligence agencies, in my humble opinion, run the world with respects to the core infrastructure of what's really happening. So when this is being reported, this is controlled in a manner that seems to protect the Biden family, because even if there are intelligence agents or entities or factions that don't like the Biden family, by not protecting the Biden family sort of collapses the whole mountain, if you will, which therefore collapses them, which makes them, have to account for illegal off the books crap. Do you guys see what I'm saying? It's one big chain. However, I would dare to say that this Washington Post review is substantial in the sense of the evidence is there, and at the same time, the way in which the CCP or the PLA, quote unquote, I say this carefully, allegedly, quote unquote, infiltrated the Biden family makes sense. It sounds like what a lot of ex-retired spies say that the CCP does in their intelligence angle of things. They play the long game. They fund families. They give free loans over the years. They wait, and then they go, hey, time to cash in when it's time for, when they want something. Case in point, maybe Taiwan, who knows, truthfully, right? Now, by the way, the Hunter Biden laptop evidence was phenomenal blackmail. And I hate to say that, I hate that this even has to be the case around the world with humans doing this to each other, but phenomenal blackmail as it pertains to before it got out and before it got public, if they had dirt on the family. I mean, I can't, assuming everything on the laptop is accurate, if I'm being honest with you, I can't deny it. I don't respect that form of intelligence work, if you will, but I understand it. Sadly, it's the very sad reality. The next thing is that the Biden administration is planning to provide $500 million or $500 million in direct budgetary aid to Ukraine. Again, not trying to sound like a socialist, communist, or anything of the sort, but that $500 million, it can't go to the roads, the bridges of the people within their own country, the homeless, the kids that are just trying to get to school to actually learn things and not be, pardon me, financially raped by the system. I don't know, guys. It's interesting how they could sign off on this no problem, but like when Biden got into, what was it, to wipe student debt or something like this, or to get Medicare for all, something of the sort, they made the excuse, oh, the parliamentarian. I'm not saying I'm for that. I'm just saying that, again, the contradictions and ironies here are ironically not so ironic, I would say. The next thing is that Bruce Willis, at the age of 67, plans to retire from acting because he has been diagnosed with aphasia, a degenerative brain condition. Okay. Assuming the guy's not an asshole in person, I wish him nothing but the best with his health. I truly mean that. However, please don't think that I'm trying to be heartless in this sense. I'm just trying to make people, particularly those that are new to the channel, which, by the way, thank you so much for signing up and listening. I truly love you. Thank you so much. To expand their perception. It's one human being who got sick. I'm not trying to belittle him. I'm not trying to make it seem like it's nothing. It's one human being. I bet people like yourself, myself, go through family issues often. Why is it that we have to direct our attention and give our energy to Mr. Bruce Willis? And I'm not speaking about Mr. Bruce Willis specifically. I'm speaking about the system in which wants everyone to sort of look, if you will. To sort of pay attention, redirect mass consciousness. I put out a tweet the other day saying it. Again, this might be controversial, but I feel I have to say it. It used to take, sadly, a couple buildings knocked down to redirect mass consciousness. Ergo 9/11. Now, all it takes is seemingly a slap. Ergo Will Smith. So again, make of that as you will, guys. The next thing is that the U.S. imposes sanctions over Iran's ballistic missile program. The Curbs target Iran-based agent and companies that the Biden administration says obtained supplies for Iran's program. I have nothing to go off of this, and this is just my opinion. I'm pretty darn sure they got nukes. This seems to be a stage or a theater for something a little bit deeper, or some sort of a public blackmail, if you will. And all these world leaders, they know it. Whether they're powerhouses or not, they know it. The next thing is that, according to an analysis, by Al Jazeera, Palestinian, quote, individual attacks, end quote, expected to rise. In a surge not witnessed in years, Palestinians carry out 3 attacks, killing 11 Israelis in just more than a week. Okay. Again, I confront this issue the same way I do. I know the Israeli-Palestinian issue, Azerbaijan, Armenia, the whole situation. Regardless of where the tensions are in the world, India, Pakistan, India, China, I look at it as human on human. We need to think bigger, guys. We need to think, again, I'm not trying to sound all kumbaya, cheesy, let's all sit by the fire. We need to look within ourselves and not direct energy outwards. What does it do? You killed someone? Okay, then what? Does it make you feel better? I mean, I'm genuinely asking. I'm not trying to be that person that says, oh, well, by killing someone, you'll never find peace. Genuinely asking. And I'm saying this to those that have that anger and are willing to follow through on that anger. I'm not speaking to the average person that watches or listens to the show. The next thing is that Iraq MPs fail for a 3rd time to elect a new president. Parliamentary source says less than 2/3 of legislators were present in parliament, falling short of a quorum. Again, assuming there's no intelligence angles behind this that are making this happen deliberately. Assuming this is done peacefully with patience and everyone is remaining calm, it's nice to see. However, I hate to say it because I know some people in Iraq and they're some of the nicest people I've met in my freaking life. It's so unfortunate to see that a government cannot be brought together to help the people of Iraq in a very nice and peaceful manner. Now, I know that's obviously maybe very black and white, easier said than done. It's not that simple. I get it, or at least I think I do. But yeah, again, I'm not trying to sound like I have the answer to all the problems, but free energy tech would certainly solve a lot of this crap. Because free energy tech, you grow your own food, I don't need to go over this again, but your own water, your own obviously energy, your own which could then provide your own transportation. You're truly independent. You can then spend more time searching within yourself, doing what you want to do. The whole concept of quote unquote work doesn't need to exist. Again, this is ideal, and I bring this up because they pretend like they don't have this crap, but they do. They think we're fools, you know? Sorry for the rambling. Anyways, the next thing is that Turkey, a mediator in Ukraine, mends its own ties with neighbors. As Turkey struggles economically, the government has decided to resurrect its, quote, zero problems with neighbors, end quote, policy. Makes perfect sense. It's strategy. With, you know, relative to the Turkish lira dropping so substantially. It's strategy, in my humble opinion. It's Erdogan saying, okay, it's time to, you know, it's tit for tat. I'm not saying it's a good move nor a bad move. I from a neutral stance, it's not for me to say, truth be told. But this screams strategy to me. Whether economically or from an intelligence perspective or both, because the two definitely intersect in a Venn diagram way. Intelligence agencies, yes, sadly, will use currencies to collapse third world countries more often than not. Sadly, I should say allegedly. But, and I'm not going to mention any names because I don't want this video to get nicked off YouTube. The next thing is that Zimbabwe is repossessing, unused land from black farmers. Land reforms in the early 2000s were meant to readdress colonial legacies, but elite citizens ended up benefiting more. Kind of reminds us of what we're going through right, in the West and truthfully all over the world, really. That's why they're now called the transnational elite, unofficially, regardless of what countries they're from. They come together regardless of countries. For them, it's not even about boundaries anymore. It's about controlling large quadrants of the planet and making the money flow up to them, in my humble opinion, which truth be told, I know this is a news episode, I couldn't help but think of the correlation between that and the 7 or 8 quadrants that the Anunnaki allegedly ruled over, God knows how many thousands of years ago, assuming that's accurate. Couldn't help but think of that, where land borders don't necessarily matter. It's just quadrant 1 to 7, and that's the planet. So, let's see here. Speaking of which, assuming the Zimbabwe government is doing this without zero corruption, that's great that they're repossessing the land and giving it back to those that initially had it, who were not, wealthy enough to keep it, or if they had it seized or exploited or extorted in a negative way. So, the next thing, assuming that's peaceful, right? The next thing is that 8 were killed as a United Nations helicopter crashed in eastern DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo. 6 Pakistanis, 1 Russian, and 1 Serbian peacekeeper were killed when their chopper went down during reconnaissance missions in the area hit by recent fighting. May they rest in peace. Now, I hate that we have to think like this. I really do. From the bottom of my damn heart, I say it because I hate that we have to think like this. But we must consider, was this UN helicopter was this a cover story for an intelligence mission? Was this a joint intelligence operation? We have to ask those questions because intel agencies use these things as cover, use these types of stories as covers all the time. Now, assuming this is the truth, may they rest in peace. Assuming they're peacekeepers with good intention, may they rest in peace. But I hate to say it, guys, we have to consider the other end of it as well. Not saying that's the truth, but it must be considered, in my opinion. The next thing is that Russia is offering SWIFT alternatives. SWIFT is the big global payment system to India for ruble payments. The plan involves rupee ruble-denominated payments using Russia's messaging system, SPFS, according to people familiar with the matter. Again, just goes to show you. I'm not saying personally that the New World Order seems to be collapsing. It's possible, even though it doesn't seem like it, but maybe I'm being fooled, and I have been before, to be fair. This is the rearrangement of all these payment systems globally between different countries. This whole thing, like the BlackRock CEO said that what Putin's doing to Ukraine is breaking the globalist system. It's not for me to say if that's good nor bad. I think we stick to too much stigmatically oriented words and labels too often. However, I mean, this is why I don't want to comment yet, because I'm not sure what to think or what to make of that, truth be told. With respects to payment systems switching and stuff, it's still in the process. I don't know, unless I'm behind the scenes and I'm in the room as a fly on the wall. I don't want to say, folks, what it's not fair for me to tell you guys this is what it is and that's it, because I could very much be wrong. The next thing is that in Pakistan, the Khan government's key ally has quit ahead of a vote to remove Prime Minister Khan. The Muttahida Qawmi movement in Pakistan, the MQM-P for short, announces it is leaving Prime Minister Khan's Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, PTI in brackets, led coalition government. I'm sorry if I butchered the pronunciation of that. Okay, so clearly Khan, maybe he was up to something and his aides just don't want to get caught in the crap for it. As they say, if you can't handle the heat, don't be in the kitchen type thing. Again, I'm sorry, but I can't help but make parallels to organized crime. I mean, what's the difference? I mean, if we're really gonna play it down that alley, that perspective, truly, what's the difference? I'm not. I'm somewhat being joking. I'm somewhat joking, but I'm also like 85% serious. So, the next thing is that China is holding a multinational meeting to discuss Afghanistan. Representatives from regional countries, plus extended troika, to discuss the humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan. Again, my brain wants to explode because it's bring out the free energy tech. I know it's not. I know it's easier said than done. I know. For God knows how many reasons, I know. But I mean, I just can't help but think of, people who have been abducted by allegedly benevolent ETs, where these ETs tell them telepathically or verbally, your species has only been good at one thing for so long, lying to your own people in war. I mean, in my opinion, they're not wrong. So, the next, by the way, we also have to consider the intelligence angle, of China, the CCP wanting to bring this meeting together, because we can see a way of an incursion while the focus tends to be on Ukraine. Don't kid yourselves, they'll try it. And I'm not saying that just with the CCP, I'm saying that with any other nation would try this. It is unfortunate, realistic strategy, like a chess game. Well, there's no emotion in it, right? You take emotion out. There you go, right? So, the next thing is that Azerbaijan said it is ready for peace talks with Armenia amid new tensions. Baku responds to Yerevan's call for negotiation of a comprehensive peace treaty amid new tensions over the long-contested enclave of Nagorno-Karabakh. Please forgive me if I butchered that. Again, unless I'm on the ground, I don't want to say myself personally. With that being said, though, when I look at this, I can't help but think at the end of the day as well that the emotion needs to be removed. And I get it. We're humans. We're emotional. That's what we do. That is how we do it. But I think it's not about removing emotion from the human perspective. I think it's about channeling that emotion, if you will. I'm not trying to get spiritual or anything like this, but I mean, I hate to say it, but you look at some of our human leaders, they're no better than, I don't hate to say it, they're no better. The person I'm speaking to that is listening to this, whether you're at work right now or whatever you're doing, you could do a better job than these leaders. I literally mean that. I would put my faith in any one of you over these guys. So, again, now, I'm not saying that specifically with Armenia and Azerbaijan. I speak to that on a much larger perspective, but you guys know what I mean, I think. The next thing is that Trudeau is visiting an indigenous community that found unmarked graves. Canada's Prime Minister is making a visit to Williams Lake First Nation as it comes amid push for justice for residential school abuses. Yes, I'm not following my own advice I just said about not getting emotional, because I will be honest with you, my head wants to explode as a Canadian when I see this. But I will stay calm. This guy, the same one, look what he did to the truckers. That's all I'm saying. When, there's a saying, which is when people get put in a corner, their true colors are really shown. When Trudeau got put in a corner, this is just my opinion, he cowered it out. I shouldn't use the word coward because I'm not trying to influence your folks' perspectives, but he cowered it out, in my opinion. And then he's trying to play all nice, going to visit these. It doesn't, to me, I'm sorry, folks, if my emotion is getting in the way, but it doesn't. I'm moving on. The next thing is that the United States Supreme Court nominee Jackson is getting a key Republican support. Senator Susan Collins says she will vote to confirm Ketanji Brown Jackson, who would be the first black woman on the top court. Look, I don't care, male, female, Asian, Russian, black, white. How are their legal skills? That's it. That's it. This is the top court in the country, arguably the most powerful court in the world, supposed to be, to be fair. I say that because, sadly though, but truthfully, we know the reality of things under the table, allegedly. Got to say that for YouTube. But can she do a good job? That's my thing. I apply the same thing in this case, human on human. I don't care how old you are. I don't care where you're from. Of course, conflicts of interest, that's a different situation. But putting that aside, can you do a good job legally? So, and this speaks to a bigger picture of how, now, let me also say too, I believe that she was questioned pertaining to certain child pornographic punishments within the state that she resided in at a particular point in time, that she ruled over, if you will, as a judge, as a district judge, if I'm not mistaken, or district or Ninth Circuit, please forgive me, but anyways, it's tough. Because we also have to remember these congressional hearings are also for views and for provocations. I'm not saying that is what happened when that Republican asked Miss Jackson about her believe it was alleged light or soft stance or soft punishment on child pornographers or anything like this, I need to see the context. I know what some of you are probably saying as you listen to this, Dave, what the hell, she supports pedos, yada yada. I haven't seen that yet with respects to me personally looking at the information and the context of the conversation of the clip that went viral on Twitter a couple days ago. For those that, I know that you know that I know, but again, I'm just trying to play it down the middle in that regard. However, if the question at the congressional hearing was not phrased in a way that was intended to elicit a biased response, that was genuinely like not a gotcha question, and she still, Miss Jackson still was, not exactly up to par with respects to that, then I got a problem. Truthfully, I do. Yes. But I haven't seen the hearing myself. I've seen clips of the hearing. But again, to be fair, clips can be taken out of context in either direction. So I'm trying to be as neutral as possible. The next thing is that Canada unveiled, let me be very clear. I have no sympathy for child pornographers or anything like that. I want to be super clear. The next thing is that Canada unveils a multi-billion-dollar plan to cut carbon emissions. Environmentalists welcome emissions reduction plan, but say it will be vital to, quote, hold politicians and, quote, feet to the fire. Hold their feet to the fire. Again, this is the Trudeau government, but even, let's put that aside. Let's put my emotions about Trudeau to the side for a second. Free energy tech can do all of it. And I know it's not easy to implement it right away. Why not? Because it would allow those at the top to come down to our level with respects to what power or sway would they have over us from a financial, psychological, even physical perspective. You see that? There you go. That's I would dare to say is the issue. Quote unquote issue. The next thing is that Biden says the Asia-Pacific region is still a priority amid the Ukraine war. The Ukraine war threatens a rule-based order globally, including in Asia-Pacific regions, the U.S. president tells Singapore Prime Minister. Yeah, no duh. One could argue that this is what happens when NATO, potentially a vassal body, arguably, from some, but this is what happens when you use that as a sort of weapon to try and make an empire across the world. Now, that is one perspective of many. Let me be very clear, that is not my perspective. That is just the sort of devil's advocate to the official narrative going on within the West, so to speak. Now, with that being said, the other side of it as well is that, again, a rules-based order. I'm not trying to be a smartass. I'm saying this in good faith. If they can break down what a rules, and when I say they, I mean the transnational elite. If they can break down what they mean by a rules-based order, I'd be happy to hear. But again, these people have lost my trust a long time ago. So this is the thing, right? Now, in pure theory, government's supposed to work. But when you have different branches and then people don't tell each other things and certain factions of people make alliances with other people off the books, just a mental or verbal handshake and that's it, it gets real gray and it gets real tough. So again, truthfully, folks, I would need to know what that means, a rules-based order. Like you want America to control more of the world, and I'm not saying that in a sarcastic or bad way, but if you do, then how would you, rectify these hunger issues, if you will? For one example, but then, interesting how they won't rectify hunger, but they could send, $500 million to Ukraine with the sign of a pen, right? So let me also be clear, though. It is because of one could very strongly argue it is because of the West that I'm even allowed to sit here and voice my opinion and report this to you folks. To be fair. But at the same time, I think that it shouldn't be something that should be taken as blind defense of the country in which you reside in. I think it's, again, as they say, keep people's feet to the fire, so to speak. Now, again, that is one slice of a multi-layered and multi-sliced pizza or pie. Just to be fair, we can go through all the different ones, but I don't want to waste your folks' time. The next thing, I think you know where I'm going with that anyways. The next thing is that Myanmar and Russia parade a military relationship. Increasingly isolated on the world stage, Myanmar's deepening Russia ties will be on display at the annual Armed Forces Day event. Okay. It's strategy. It's too early for me to give an opinion on that. I would need to look into that more from an intelligence perspective, truth be told. But it is strategy, in my opinion. Or I could be wrong about that, too. The next thing is that Dyson has taken its first step into wearable technology with an eye-catching pair of over-ear headphones that come with an air-purifying mouth visor. Best known for vacuum cleaners, Dyson has diversified in recent years with products such as fans and a hairdryer. The headphones called Dyson Zone are designed to tackle the growing issue of air pollution. So they're headphones to listen to music and whatnot, but they also come with an air purifying mouth visor. Again, the problem is, in my opinion, is the vast majority of the tech we're seeing introduced into society is not bad tech. It is those at the top in which they're using the intention of that tech towards us for particular malevolent reasons, in my humble opinion. Now, if I was convinced, and I'm not the type, I don't think I'm the type of person that says, well, if you could convince me, but then you can never convince me. However, if I was convinced that world leaders truly had our best, thoughts in mind, and they worked with private sector individuals, which just that sentence alone kind of goes against, peace and prosperity, because profits kind of contradict with that. But if I could be ensured in some way or manner that this thing going over my mouth is actually good, if you will, I might actually give it a shot, but not in this, personally, not in this lifetime. Not here, not with what's happening right now. So that's just me, though. The next thing is that politicians have praised a Welsh MP for his bravery after he tweeted he has gender dysphoria and has been a victim of rape and blackmail. Jamie Wallace, who was elected in 2019, is the first MP to come out as trans. The Conservative MP for Bridgend said a man sent pictures to his family and demanded €50,000 in 2020. He said he was then raped in a separate incident. Mr. Wallace wrote that after he was raped, quote, "Things have taken a tumble. I am not okay," end quote. The MP confirmed that he fled the scene of a car crash 2 months after he was raped. I am so sorry, folks, that that we have to end today's Kraken with this, but this touches on a lot of very sensitive topics and issues, but I wanted to address this deliberately because of that. Because we need to show that even if we cannot agree on everything pertaining to culture issues or what have you, this individual is still a human being. I genuinely mean that. I'm not trying to, this individual is still a human being. I have tremendous respect for this individual. Now, what they want to do with their body and in the bedroom, that is entirely up to them, truth be told. Now, at times, are there certain, I guess you could say, instances or descriptions of what individuals do that I guess you could say is out of the ordinary for me? Yes. But I don't, there are things that I'm sure that I do that are out of the ordinary to others around the world, and even to ETs, and even more so, right? Spirits and whatnot. So my thing is this, who am I to say? Now, it gets tough with respects to what age can someone choose to be, choose to switch genders. That's a very different discussion, in my humble opinion. Part of the same category, but a different compartment of discussion. I applaud this particular MP for basically saying, I've been raped, blackmailed, and I am not okay. Because honestly, and I don't, truth be told, in this instance, I mean, the fact that this individual has changed genders, I'm sure has something to do with it. But I mean, I look at it as human on human. It's very unfortunate because mental health is a very serious and it's a very real thing. And I applaud Mr. Wallace for coming forward like this. As many of you know, again, I talk about my, my quote unquote issues all the time. Hey guys, I'm taking a few days off, and I tell the members much more than the public, if I'm being honest with you. But because I'm in touch with quite a lot of the members on a very personal basis. But yeah, I mean, I must say, this is just my opinion. I applaud Mr. Wallace. I don't have anything else I could say in that regard. I mean, this is exactly how you sort of turn these things around with respects to coming out of the darkness, if you will. This is how you expose the bullies. I'm not trying to sound all, kumbaya by the fire, but it's the same tactics, whether it's politics, organized crime, individual blackmail, it's the same thing. So without further ado, thank you so very much. We have lots coming both for the members and the public in the next 48 hours, maybe even less, maybe a tad more, depending on how much more time I need to finish off some content I really, really think you folks are going to love, and we'll catch you all very, very soon. Cheers, everybody.